Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there, so please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money, so check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks. Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try and make your world a little weirder. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Niall. And I'm just gonna put this out here. There's a project. There's a little thing that I'm doing this weekend with Jules. We're gonna have a little date day, and we're gonna try to make ramen from ramen broth from scratch.
Oxtail type beat.
Pork. But yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Nice.
We kind of a tonkatsu broth is the plan.
That's very exciting. My week is actually defined by culinary mishaps. Actually, I kind of already brought this up on a Patreon bonus episode, but I may have food poisoned myself.
Oh, we're gonna bring the bathroom troubles out from behind the paywall.
See, if people want the gory details, go ahead, join Patreon. Like that's where you're gonna find that information. But I'm so disappointed because I really don't think I've ever, I've made food that doesn't taste good, right? I've been like, well, shit, I fucked this up. This doesn't taste good. This didn't work out, whatever. I've never gotten sick from my own cooking before.
Yeah, I don't think I have either. I think I've gotten sick from leftovers that were too late or whatever, but I haven't, and that's rare. Like I very rarely does that happen, but I'm not sure I've ever given myself food poisoning before.
I mean, I don't know if it was food poisoning, but it kind of felt like it, and I think it wasn't maybe necessarily the cooking, but the amount of time the chicken sat in the fridge. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, sure.
Which kind of pisses me off. First of all, I think it was low quality chicken. I think these were some bad chickens that I was dealing with. And I couldn't believe that I did it to myself somehow. This has never happened, and I hope it never happens again. And it was very disappointing. So to make up for it, you know what I did just before we hopped on this call here? You can see me, Niall. I'm holding this mug.
Yeah, it's a nice mug. It's kind of ribbed for her pleasure.
Thank you. This is jeez. It's
am I wrong?
No, you're not. You're not wrong. It's ribbed for my pleasure, I guess.
Yeah.
But sipping pleasure, nothing salacious. Okay, don't nobody interpret that in a sexual manner. I know you will, but please don't.
Yeah, this is a Christian podcast.
This is a Christian podcast and a family sort of show, so don't fucking do that. What this is, Niall, is I am in the middle of a move. It's a weird situation where I'm at this house for a month, and then my roommates have moved out, and then you have that moment where you realize we were all very happy sharing stuff with one another. They used my stuff, I used their stuff, but then they move, and you suddenly realize, oh, I don't have that thing. So I didn't have a good way to make hot water for tea. So you know what I fucking did? You know what I did?
Just on a pot on the stove?
No, I took the filter out. I have a reusable filter for my coffee brewing machine. I took that out, ran the brew cycle on that thing, and put a couple of bags of apple cider tea stuff in the carafe, and just let it fill up with that. And I gotta say, I was feeling the oncoming change of seasons. And really about to get into it. But this, today, I'm officially calling it, this is the true beginning of fall right now. I took a sip of this, and I was instantly like, oh, okay, it's fall now.
You want to know what's funny? I had spiced apple tea last night.
Nice. See,
so
isn't it?
I think I was just maybe it came a little earlier. I'm a little further east than you are.
That's
so maybe
true.
fall is making its way west.
Yeah.
Started here yesterday. Started with you today.
Yeah,
et cetera,
it's like celebrating New Year's with people across time zones, basically.
Yeah.
But we are in the same time zone, so that's a little weird. But
it's like that.
It's
not exactly the same.
It isn't that same thing, but I would say it's akin to it.
If you think about it, you'll be close. And those are words to live by, Niall. This is the most No More Jockeys ass thing we've ever done. That's such an obscure thing. But if you like Taskmaster, look up No More Jockeys. You'll recognize some of the guys on it, and it's pretty funny.
That's Niall's recommendation for the week. My recommendation for the week is go to YouTube, load up that son of a bitch, Google search. I guess YouTube search, not Google. Google in YouTube. Go to YouTube.
Well, Google owns YouTube, right?
That's true, and Google's also sort of become a generic term for like searching online, even though it doesn't.
So really, what you're doing is you're going to YouTube and searching on YouTube, powered by Google.
If you want to be technical, not if you want to be like pedantic, I guess.
I honestly think corporate structure should be by law defined like that, where you have to so Halliburton is responsible for Frosted Flakes or whatever. I think that should all be on the box.
I do actually agree with that, and I was not aware of Halliburton's relationship to Frosted Flakes, so I'm gonna be changing my personal relationship with Frosted Flakes. But I want you all to go to YouTube, Google up this exact phrase. God bless the USA 9/11 dance / footwork group. 'Tis the season.
You motherfucker.
'Tis the season. If Niall gets to have his recommendation, I would like everybody else out there to have this recommendation. So 'tis the season. I just check it out. You're going to love it. Niall, we have an email this week.
Okay.
Would you like that?
Oh, I'd love it. I'm a little peckish, as they say.
Yes. Well, here is an email from Eric. And the email is titled, Here We Go. I love that. Here's what it says. Okay, first off, just joined Patreon, top tier, boys. Had to cut back on my beer budget, LMAO. Hey, we're helping you out in that regard. Nothing good ever came from beer. So you might as well cut it out completely. And just hop on into the Patreon.
Bump up that tier one more,
Yeah. Goes on to say, heard your shout out on your latest episode. I believe this is the same Eric where we were like, oh, hey, thank you for telling us you're going to send a story.
Who tickled us with a story. Yeah.
And it says, heard your shout out. Fucking made my day. I played it a few times and I was like, what the fuck? Awesome. Here's one of the stories I alluded to. Back in 2002, I was in Philadelphia with a work buddy. Contract working on 737s. Damn. He threw out that he knew this old mental asylum that had been abandoned forever. Being a younger chap said, fuck yeah, bro. We drove out there with our flashlights and, sorry. Hey, Eric, I'm sorry. I'm trying to interpret some of this. We drove out there with our flashlights and we got this shit. This place was your typical creepy-ass huge building. Think house on haunted hill. Overgrown grass and a fence surrounding it. Okay, I'm loving what I'm hearing so far.
Yeah.
I look at him like, how are we supposed to get in? He laughed and walked up to the fence and showed a cutout just big enough for us. He said we got to sneak because they occasionally have security guys that patrol around. Interesting. It's that sort of Scooby-Doo type shit.
It's the first level of the stealth game where there's just like
yes.
one guard you have to avoid,
Yeah, and eventually you're going to have to like pick up somebody's briefcase and just like lob it at somebody and knock them out with it.
Yeah.
We sneak up the weedy-ass hill to an entrance that was boarded up. He pulled back the bottom two boards, and we entered into a dark staircase going down. We turned on our flashlights and crawled in. Dust and cobwebs greeted us with annoying open arms. Hey, that's a nice little phrase there. I like that.
Yeah.
We made our way down into a long hallway, walls with no windows on the left, a bank of doors on the right, various papers and a few medical beds half scattered away in the hallway. We made our way quietly down passing doors that had no handles until we came upon one that was slightly open. He whispered that this wasn't open last time he came in. I guess he came in and all the doors were closed, got spooked, and took off. I'm freaking out at this point. We creeped the door open and shone our flashlights in. Same as the hallway, everything covered in dust and cobwebs. No signs of anyone being there beforehand. There was a bed like a med bed with old leather cuffs on each corner. Stupidly, we go in to investigate. Once we're in, we hear a bang from where we came. We turn our flashlights off thinking, shit, security guards saw those boards we took down. And bang! Fuck, I'm freaking out. I peek out into the hallway a bit, but I don't see a light. You'd think if the dude came down here, there'd be a light. Then I heard running down the hall towards us. I duck back and hear it run right past us. We didn't realize we were holding our breath. We let it out and turned on our lights. Motherfucking fresh, I repeat, fresh, barefoot prints in the dust. We got the fuck out. I noticed on our hurried exit that the first door before the stairs going out was slightly open. Fuck. Well, lesson learned, never go into an abandoned asylum again. That's it. Didn't know if it satisfied the spooky side, but it sure scared the shit out of me. Love you guys and keep up the good work. Hey, that is a great spooky story for the oncoming season. So thank you, Eric.
Yeah. I love the phantom barefoot prints appearing with no physical form. Yeah, it's great. Like, and the doors being slightly ajar.
That's all, like creaky cobwebs. I mean, it's a perfect scenario for a haunted, and it's an asylum. You know that shit's got the haunting vibes.
And luckily, you're in the movie. You guys are probably the people that like make it out, and but you're too scared to go back, and you warn off the people that then get killed. You know, like you did the minimal version. So, the next time a group of plucky 20-somethings played by 30-somethings comes up to you and says, "Oh, I heard you. How'd you get into the asylum?" Then tell them not to go and see if you can do your part.
Yeah. Say don't even bother. And I am loath to admit it, Eric, but that security guard off camera was murdered. Yeah. So, unfortunately, have I ever told you that really like one of the scariest moments of my life?
You'll have to be more specific.
I can't go into all the details, but I was at a family member's house, and I remember it was like 2 a.m, and everybody was asleep. And I went out back and was standing behind a tree, kind of just chilling out there. Mm-hmm. And at this house, there's like a series of trees, and in between the trees were a series of bushes in like a pattern. Mm-hmm. And these trees and bushes were sort of a partition between my family member's lawn, their backyard, and the neighbor's yard. And I remember being out there, just hanging out. Moonlight was pretty bright, so I could like see things in front of me. But things in the distance I couldn't see super well. And I remember looking over to that partition of bushes and trees. Mm-hmm. I shit you not. I get scared. I'm like making myself scared right now thinking about this. I look over and I see the silhouette of a person stand up in those bushes.
Okay.
And I'm like, what the fuck am I seeing? And I think I may have called out in nervousness of like, hey, I said something like, who's there? Hello. Sure. And when I did that figure started like running at me. Oh, and okay. I don't know what happened from there. They were far enough. I never made out any details. I just saw a silhouetted figure, and I ran the fuck inside. I locked every door. I thought I was going to throw up. Like, I was so scared. And I don't like to think about it. And I have no idea what that was. And I remember asking my family about it, and they were very confused. And because I think they were saying something to the effect of, like, an old man used to live there, and he had a caretaker because he was basically immobile. And that when I was telling them around, like, I couldn't remember what date it was, but I'm sure that when I told them about it, it was like, it was this time frame, because I told them about it like a year or two later.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, oh yeah, well, like, that man would have been dead by that time, and the caretaker would no longer have been there, so the house didn't have somebody in it at that time.
So nobody was supposed to be there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so nobody was supposed to be there. So that's my scary story. Hopefully I just want you to just picture everything I said in your mind, because to this day, it's one of the scariest fucking things that's ever happened to me, and I have no resolution for what that was.
And unfortunately, you probably never will. I
definitely won't.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Anyways, that just reminded me of my scary story. Hope everybody enjoyed that.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Indrid Cold and the
No, I want to talk
Man?
about Indrid Hot.
What would be the opposite of an Ingrid?
Beowulf?
Beowulf. Is that...
No,
okay.
That's... no, sorry. It's that's something else. What I'm thinking of is an opera.
Okay.
But
I don't know
can't
very
remember.
many... I don't know very many Ingrids. In fact, I don't think I've known any in my life.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever known one personally. But...
All right. Indrid Cold, Durdney Hot. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, sure.
So, in the first part of this two-parter, we talked about the Grinning Man entity, which is like, it's what it sounds like. It's a humanoid figure that grins. He's a man. He sometimes has slightly inhuman features. The grin is obviously unsettling.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we talked about the origins of the name Indrid Cold, which is something that would become associated with an eerie, possibly inhuman grinning man through Woody Derenberger. So Woody Derenberger's story is that the Grinning Man was an alien named Indrid Cold from the planet Lanulos. I have more details about that I wanted to save for the end of this episode to sort of, cap things off. So for the rest of this, for most of this episode, what I want to do is talk about some other associated stuff about the Grinning Man entity based on John Keel's pre-Mothman Prophecies book, which is The Complete Guide to Mysterious Beings.
Okay.
It's been a lot of fun reading parts of this book, so I don't think this will be the last time we talk about stuff from it. But for now, we're talking about the chapter that's titled The Grinning Man. And beyond just Derenberger's encounter and the stuff we talked about in part one, he sort of illustrates, like, he floats from story to story and relates happenings that could potentially be connected.
Okay.
And the other thing that I kept thinking about while reading about all this stuff is how all the other sightings that Keel ropes into the Grinning Man stuff, like Derenberger's story is the odd duck out. It's the one that, like, is explicitly an alien and is like, nobody else in these stories is actually coming into verbal contact with the Grinning Man.
Yeah, it felt apart from the other ones you told last episode too, where it's just like, I understand contextually how they got linked, but I don't understand how they really got thought of as the same creature, Like, it's... Yeah. They don't feel that similar.
Sure, and I think if it weren't for the fact that the Lanulosian Indrid Cold was a grinning tall man, that, like, if he was just a tall man, then this would not be associated, maybe. But Keel does, of course, get wrapped up in the story because of Derenberger's original encounter, which has to do with this grinning man.
Yeah.
Or grinning alien, I guess. And they're very human-like, these Lanulosians. But
yeah, they're kind of Star Trek aliens, where it's
Yes.
aliens with one thing different. Yeah.
Yes. What it actually reminds me of is like it reminds me of reading. I think I maybe said this in the other episode. It reminds me of reading Jacques Vallée's Passport to Magonia, because a lot of that book is just him being like, here are these like fairy stories, and here are things that have these like stories that we can pull from history that have properties in them that overlap with stories of the Fae or whatever, you know. So I think it's similar here with Keel, where he's just like, these things overlap, even if it's only in small ways, and I'm just trying to build a complete picture of this thing.
Sure.
So following Keel's investigation, we have the story of the Lilly family. Keel switches his focus to that infamous nexus of weird shit, home of the Mothman, Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And he explains how the Lilly family lived near the TNT area, which I do believe we brought up in our Mothman episode 9 years ago.
Okay.
And I was talking with you before the show about we probably got to revisit the Mothman. But the TNT area, this is a location that was used for the manufacturing and storage of ammunition and explosives during World War II, and Mothman is just seen around here pretty regularly.
Yeah, I saw that area and went in one of the bunker things when I was in Point Pleasant. Yeah, they took
sick.
There was a bus tour that you could go on that shows you where all the sightings are and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, I want to do that. Well, by the mid-'60s, when these stories take place, this TNT area was horribly polluted. I mean, it was just a total disaster. Bad vibes, I guess you might say.
Yeah.
And the Lilly family lived just south of the TNT area, and starting in the spring of 1967, this family started going through a gauntlet of strangeness. So I really like this. Keel describes Mr. Lilly as a, quote, no-nonsense riverboat captain on the Ohio, who was, quote, skeptical at first when weird things began happening around their property. Now, I feel like if you're going to be a riverboat captain on the Ohio River, you do need to have an air of no-nonsense about you. But as we know, being confronted by the yes nonsense can smack the no nonsense out of some of the most rational skeptics. And that's kind of the picture that Keel paints when he talks about this family. So this family reportedly saw low-flying mysterious objects that gave off light around their property. Mrs. Lilly says, quote, we've seen all kinds of things, blue lights, green ones, red ones, things that change color. Some of them have been so low that we thought we could see diamond-shaped windows in them, and none of them make any noise at all.
Okay. So that diamond spacecraft is like UFOs are like a thing, right? That's a.
I don't think they're diamond-shaped spacecraft. What she says is that they have diamond-shaped windows. Okay. So they're. I think it's funny, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, you don't get a lot of details on the and like whenever Keel would bring up a different encounter or story, I would try to go and find other places online talking about them. Mm-hmm. I couldn't find much about the Lilly family. So I don't have great details on what the craft looked like other than what she just said, which is that they gave off lights, lots of different lights, and they had diamond windows, or they appeared to.
Sure. Okay.
But I'm kind of picturing classic UFO, probably a saucer. But I don't know that for sure. The presence of UFOs near the Lilly household also tended to be indicated by electronics going haywire, which is, a classic. So, according to Mr. Lilly, quote, it didn't take us long to learn that when our TV started acting up, it was a sure sign that one of those lights was passing over. I didn't think much of all the flying saucer talk until I started seeing them myself. You've got to believe your own eyes. So it was said that if a car rolled up to the area near the Lilly household where the sightings would happen, there was a tendency for these cars to stall out, and there was no cause of the stalling out. They couldn't figure out what caused it. According to Keel, it wasn't long before these sightings and experiences got out to the broader Point Pleasant community. Word travels fast. So much like how it went down with Derenberger, how I talked about in the first part, locals began to flock to the Lilly household to try and catch sight of the strange lights. The same thing happened to Woody. Like, once his story was out, people were coming to his house and trying to see UFOs, which is a point that I will get back to at the very end of this episode as well. So, according to Keel's account, the many people who thronged to the Lilly property were not disappointed. They would often catch sight of the unexplained lights in the sky, and he says that the folks who saw these lights were from all walks of life. So it's local teenagers, cops, reporters, the county sheriff specifically is named, and then just general concerned or interested citizens.
Okay, so they were common enough and like repeated enough that a lot of different people saw them as they flocked to this place.
That's
okay.
what he says. That's what he says. Yes.
It's weird that you can't find any more information about this story if it was that.
I know. I have to assume it's out there, but I'm assuming it's in a book.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I was looking like and I only got like 2. Would you believe it? They don't name the wife.
They never do. Unless the wife has like, unless the husband dies and the wife continues doing stuff about it.
Yeah,
they almost never name the wife.
It's like I got there's like 2 names from the family, the Lilly family, that I got from the book. That it just is very difficult to find more information. If there's somebody listening to this episode who has more information on this story specifically, I would love to hear it. Email us, please. itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. I would love to know more. But I'm just taking Keel at face value here.
Sure.
So it was established in part 1 that these UFO flaps tend to also, they carry the Grinning Man with them, like the breeze carries a discarded newspaper. Like, these accounts of the Grinning Man were very often, he would appear suddenly and then disappear just as abruptly. Like, as soon as you turned away from him, he would be gone. And that's another thing that runs very counter to Derenberger's experience, because Derenberger is, like, over the course of weeks, having contact with Indrid Cold, the Grinning Man, and being taken to Lanulos to check it out.
Well, the thing is, Derenberger's really special. None of these other people are special.
Maybe. He might be special. He might be special, Niall, but maybe not in the way that you're thinking.
Okay.
So, in his investigation of the Lilly family's case, Keel discovered that there were other bizarre events at the household among the family, even outside of the ufological. Like weird shit happened here. So, Keel gets out there to interview the Lilly family, and he gets there because of the UFO lead. Like, that's why they're there.
Uh-huh.
But he discovers from talking with them that in the fall of 1966, weird noises started being heard around their house. They didn't really talk about this stuff outside of the family, but apparently they were beginning to worry that perhaps their house was haunted. And the way they talk about it makes me think of a little bit of a poltergeist. Because Mrs. Lilly claims that she would be in the house and she would hear sounds of something that sounded like a baby crying. And she says, quote, "It sounded so plain that I looked around the house even though I knew there was no baby there. It seemed to come from the living room only a few feet away from me." Then the other detail that this one creeps me out. So they have a daughter-in-law, Mrs. Doris Lilly, and she's in the southern area of Point Pleasant. And apparently in March 1967, which I think is a full year after their initial sightings, Doris would start getting weird phone calls.
Okay.
Around 5 p.m., almost every day. She would get a phone call, the phone would ring, she'd pick it up, and she would hear this bizarre metallic voice that was speaking in a language she couldn't understand. She describes them as guttural and rapid. And this is the part that creeps me out. The calls apparently would only come when she was home alone. And she says, quote, "It was as if they knew when I came home."
Okay.
And this would just happen every night. And she would become very scared, didn't want to stay there anymore. She contacts the phone company. They check her lines, and they say, "We have no idea what these calls are or where they're coming from."
But they did find the calls, like, there was record of the calls happening?
You know, it doesn't say, Niall,
Okay,
whether or not there are records, but Keel claims that she claimed this.
Okay. Now, I get why that freaks you out. Like, that is a creepy thing. But the idea of a sound happening and I can locate it to a specific point a couple feet away from me, but there's nothing there, like, ooh, that is terrifying to me.
No, that's not what happened, but that's fucked up.
Oh, that's not what happened?
No. She would just hear noises that... It's not that there was noise that she could hear.
The baby crying?
Oh, the baby crying. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about her phone call. Yeah. Yeah, like, that is freaky.
The specificity of the baby crying thing was really... The more I thought about it as you were talking about the phone calls, the more I was like, that would freak me the fuck out.
It is creepy.
If it was just nebulously coming from upstairs or outside or something, that's creepy a bit, but that's more normal. Being able to pinpoint it to a place that there's nothing there is like... that would freak me the fuck out.
I gotta say, okay. We're somehow brushing on personal Kyle stories this week because one time, there was 2 or 3 times at the height of the pandemic when my stress level was off the charts, that I would hallucinate the sound of a phone ringing.
Sure.
And it you're right. It scared the fuck out of me. It scared me so badly. I've talked about, like, I used to have these, like, I don't need to go into the weeds on this, and I'm pretty sure I've talked about this on the show. When I was much younger, in the dark, like if I would wake up at night, in the middle of the night in the darkness, if I were to look around the room, I would sometimes hallucinate in the dark.
Yeah.
Like, I have a very vivid memory of falling asleep on the couch and then waking up without real... Like, I never went to bed. I was probably, like, 14, and I was immediately scared because I didn't like the dark, and I remember looking across the room and seeing the cable that was running out the back of the television set, and I, like, stared at it for a minute, and it started to, like, move like a snake. Now,
so
I knew it wasn't...
This?
Yeah, I'm crazy? Is that what you're about to tell me?
No.
Okay.
No, because there are times where I'm in the dark and my brain will, like, autocomplete something, and I can see it, but I can tell that it's not there. Yes. Versus there's also, for reasons I'm not going to go fully into, I have also had a thing where I saw something that I think is literally there and has physical shape, form, and weight. And there's a separation between those two. Do you know? Like, do you get what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying, and this is why I mean, the human mind is so easily freaked out. And just there are factors that can really cause you to think and see something that's not really there. And it's a bad experience to have. Like,
Yep.
It's pretty scary. Like, I don't have the same sort of nighttime hallucinations that I did when I was much younger, but peak levels of stress, I'll, like, hear stuff.
Yeah.
And that scares me. It would be one thing to just be having these spontaneous, like, you know, hallucinations, which I guess is scary in its own way. But I think what scares me is the fact that stress induces it in me. Like, that's, I don't know what that means. And I have a feeling we're going to get an email from a doctor who listens to the show just being like, you're both dying within the month.
Look, it is nice to know that someone else has experienced it, though. You know,
100%. 100%. Anyways, wow, scary. Hey, we got to bring more scary stories. I'll have to dredge up more scary stories.
I have a ghost story that I think I've told on the podcast before, but I won't do it this week.
Is it the church?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a classic. That's a Nile classic.
Yeah.
That's a creepy story. That's a creepy fucking story. Anyways, to get back to the creepy Grinning Man stuff. So naturally, to dig as deep as possible for an explanation, Keel and his, crack team of investigators would also interview subjects about the dreams that they had around the time of these events. And apparently the question they wrote, like, Keel is like, this is the specific question we would ask them, which was, did you ever dream there was a stranger in the house in the middle of the night? They got a shocking answer from the Lilly family's 16-year-old daughter, Linda. So Linda relates this story about a fucked up nightmare that she had back in March, around when the sightings first started. So they ask her about this, and she's apparently not eager to share it first, and they have to kind of like talk her through, like, hey, this could help us solve the issue.
But we're not talking about, like, they don't do hypnotic regression or anything. She's just telling the story.
I don't think actually that was Keel's MO either. I don't get that impression. I could be wrong, but they don't mention it in this book if that did in fact happen. But apparently they talk with her, and she says that she woke up one night and she looked down her bed, and at the edge of her bed, towering over it, is just a figure. And Linda says, quote, it was a man, a big man, very broad. I couldn't see his face very well, but I could see that he was grinning at me. And then the mother chimes in and says, quote, Jim was working on the river. That's Mr. Lilly. And Linda woke me up with a terrible scream. She cried out there was a man in her room. I told her she was dreaming, but she screamed again. Then Linda says, quote, he walked around the bed and stood right over me. I screamed again and hid under the covers. When I looked up again, he was gone. Then Mrs. Lilly says, quote, she came running into my room. She said, there's a man in my room. There is. She's refused to sleep alone ever since. Now they ask her, like, do you have any other details about this man that was in your room? Mm-hmm. And the only other detail they really get is that besides him being tall and broad-shouldered and grinning, is that he was wearing a checkered shirt.
Interesting. What was, because wasn't he wearing like a green suit or some shit last episode?
Yeah, he was wearing like a fucking zoot suit when those two kids saw him, right? Like, I mean, not a zoot suit, but it was like a really wacky sounding suit. And yeah, and it's, there are inconsistent details between these sightings, but there's usually at least one detail that like lets Keel be like, how can we string this all together?
Sure. Yeah.
Even if it's just there's a tall grinning man,
big old grinning guy. Yeah. That's it.
Keel mentions here something that I'd never heard before, and I know that it gets brought up in other parts of the book. So when we revisit this book, we'll want to talk about this. But just make a note. He says that occult literature frequently makes reference to ghosts dressed in checkered shirts.
Okay.
He basically says that this detail remains innocuous to like people theorizing about what this stuff is, like people theorizing about the occult. And so it gets skipped over because it doesn't seem relevant, but he's saying, hey, it might be an important connective thread or something that we could use to connect stories. And this thread also seems to connect back to the Grinning Man. So, now, here, Keel then says, we have this story from this teenage girl who sees this terrifying vision of a man in her room with the checkered shirt. And he makes a point to say that the Lilly family couldn't possibly know that across the country 3 years earlier in Florida, there's another story that's very similar.
Oh, okay.
Because apparently this man in the checkered shirt appeared in the home of Mr. and Mrs. George Glines of Pensacola. So around 1963, there's a hurricane. And Mr. Glines says, quote, "I was lying on the couch in the living room with just one dim light on. I had the feeling that someone is in the room and looked up and saw a heavily built man about 6 feet tall wearing a plaid sports shirt. I got up and took a couple of steps toward him. As I did, it looked like he took a step backward and disappeared. I turned on the light and he was gone. I checked the doors and they were all locked. I didn't mention it until my son-in-law saw it because I didn't want to upset my wife." So Keel then says that this son-in-law, James, also saw the same man in his bedroom in that exact same house. And he says, quote, "I saw a large man. He was a laboring type person, standing at the foot of the bed. I couldn't see his face. When I started to get up, he went away."
So at what point does this start feeling like sleep paralysis?
You know, it's a good point because I think that it kind of does.
Yeah.
I've had sleep paralysis a couple of times, and one very notable time that I'll never forget was actually when we were living together, and I took a midday nap, and I woke up frozen and could see. It was like sleep paralysis that lasted half a second, because I couldn't move for half a second, but I saw what looked like black smoke in the form of like a human from the waist down, and it just immediately turned away from me and disappeared in a wisp. And if you saw that and weren't very informed on sleep paralysis, you would be like, "Oh, well, okay, that's a ghost."
Yeah.
I've had a couple other sleep paralysis encounters. Maybe I'll just save that for a scary October episode. But
yeah.
So to your point, it does, especially the way they're saying that he just suddenly turns and is gone. It reminds me of the feeling of waking up from sleep paralysis. There's another story that he ropes in that reminds me of how it also reminds me of sleep paralysis. So
yeah.
yes,
as soon as we left the state, it felt like, okay, are we just doing sleep paralysis stories now? But I'm open to it. You know?
I think though that it's just a cataloging of stories that have connecting properties ultimately.
Sure.
So yeah, the son-in-law sees this thing, and apparently they also would hear the sound of knocking around the house, and at one point, they were so perturbed by this knocking, the family tore the wall out of the house and found nothing inside it. And then this is a very weird. This is the weirdest part of it to me. But apparently, they have a very small boy as well, a small son named George Jr. And apparently, at the very young age of 2 years old, George Jr. starts to talk about his friend Pookie.
Oh God! So we have a kid with an imaginary friend here too.
Pookie, I guess, is a very big man who wears a colorful shirt, and apparently George told his mother that he could never actually see Pookie's face, and that his face wasn't clear.
Interesting. But the shirt was Ed Hardy, right?
Yes. So he's got this colorful shirt, but the kid can't make out the Pookie's face. And apparently family would come over and hear footsteps when there was nobody around. And then the next big bombshell from Keel. It's May of 1964 and the house suddenly burns to the ground.
Damn.
And George would tell his mother, quote, "Pookie doesn't like the house all burned, but he said he would come back when it was fixed up."
I mean, but I thought Pookie was gonna take some sort of credit for the fire, but no, he's just like, I'll let you guys fix this, and I might,
and then I'll come back,
done.
and I'm sure that his mother was just like, oh, good, he'll be back, great.
Yeah, your giant imaginary friend is gonna be back, great.
Yeah. Now, here's where Keel takes another sort of diversion, but he then says, you hear this story, right? He goes on to say that burning houses, like mysterious fires, also can be associated with UFO stories. And he says that witnesses of UFOs have had their houses suddenly destroyed by fires often enough that you can't just discount the phenomenon.
All right, so what you're saying is we should be warning Garrett.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, hey, I've seen a UFO with Garrett, and I've been doing okay. So
yeah,
and I think, didn't you see something with us one time, or was that not you?
I saw. Yeah, we saw. It was when we were driving back from the video store. I saw a little thing up above. Yeah, sure.
Which I've always personally theorized that had something to do with the military encampment near where he lives, but that's just me. Anyways, he goes on to explain that there was this contactee that I would love more information, but a man in New Mexico named Paul Villa, who Keel describes as being part Indian, and that his house burned to the ground after he had published photographs that he had taken of UFOs that were hovering near where he lived. He also talks about how there's an abandoned building in the TNT area back in Point Pleasant that just in the middle of a pouring rainstorm suddenly catches fire and burns down. And he says, quote, grass fires often erupt in empty fields hours or days after a UFO has reportedly touched down there. Now, I kind of racked my brain because I don't remember reading stories, but I also believe him. I don't remember reading specific stories of like UFO presence turning into a fire where they touch down.
I do remember some stuff where like there were scorch marks on the ground after UFOs and stuff, but which isn't exactly the same.
It's not
thing,
the same,
but I guess
because
it's close enough to be it's close enough for my brain to go, maybe he's saying onto something.
Yeah, it sounds like what he's saying is that UFOs would appear in a place, and then they would leave, and then within a day or two, that place would burn. Maybe it's possible. I do remember in The Curse of the Man Who Sees UFOs, Cristo Ropolo, our friend. In that documentary, there's a real case that they bring up about a man who sees UFOs like near a golf course and ends up burned to death.
Yeah,
that is a true story, insofar as a man did burn to death, and supposedly saw UFOs. So, and maybe there's something to it. But the other example that Keel gives for fires associated with UFO activity is the Jaroslaw family. Jaroslaw. Now, he gives a brief overview about this story, but I was intrigued, so again, I went and I looked for it, and it turns out there's a decent amount of coverage about this case, as well as the infamous UFO photographs that were taken. So, the story goes that in the early afternoon of January 1967, 17-year-old Daniel Jaroslaw and his younger brother, 15-year-old Grant, they were out and about by Lake St. Clair, which is about 15 miles north of Detroit, Michigan. They were lucky that they had a Polaroid camera on them that day because they were witness to an extremely weird UFO display. So apparently a dark hamburger-shaped object about a quarter-mile offshore of Lake St. Clair floated hovering. Now, here's my personal theory. The hamburger UFO is the result of the United States actually reverse engineering a UFO and going, we got to slap an American design on this thing.
Yeah.
Hamburger.
Got to make it a burger.
Obvious
exactly.
choice. So the most apparently the most notable detail of this, and I saw the photos, so yes, it is the most notable detail of this craft. Beyond its shape, it's that it also seemed to have a little bit of a tail with a visible antenna on it, and you can see it in the photos. So
it's an RC burger UFO.
Yeah. So the boys quickly began snapping photos of the thing. They were unsure of the size of it, but from where they stood, they believed it to be approximately the size of a helicopter. So the object hovered over the lake for a whole 10 minutes and just let them take their fill of photos before it suddenly and rapidly sped away, disappearing in the distance. And then, not long after the UFO departed, an easily identifiable actual helicopter from the nearby Selfridge Air Force Base, wink, showed up. The boys took pictures of this as well, but it was clearly nothing like the previous craft. Now, I want to read you a little snippet from this spring 1967 issue of True Magazine, Flying Saucers and UFO Quarterly. So here's what it says. The following day, the Detroit News published a picture of the UFO along with the story of how the Jarislaw brothers happened to have their camera in the right place at the right time. Wrong time. The photo immediately came under an intensive investigation by officials of Project Blue Book, the Air Force's highly active UFO study unit. And they had to admit that the Jarislaw brothers had snapped one of the most realistic UFO pictures on record. Now, hold on to your britches. Although the radar scope at Selfridge Air Force Base, only a mile from the scene, had picked up nothing unusual, and the helicopter pilot said he had seen nothing hovering in the area, the Jarislaw prints were called Pictures of a Believable UFO. Among the first to comment was Dr. J. Allen Hynek, chairman of Northwestern University's astronomy department, who for years has been consultant to the Air Force on UFOs. After viewing the pictures, the bearded, bespectacled Dr. Hynek made several important points at a news conference in Detroit. The striking thing to me is the similarity these pictures have to other photos I've seen. Also, to the verbal descriptions taken from ostensibly reliable people. To the best of my recollection, even the antenna shown on the tail has been previously reported. Being a Polaroid print offers less chance for darkroom chicanery. Adding to the credibility is the fact that a series of pictures were taken rather than just one shot. Dr. Hynek went on to say that, in all honesty, at this moment, I have no knowledge of whether the pictures are authentic, but I cannot call them a hoax. Most of the pictures we get require just one look to say they are a hoax, but this case is a little different. If it's a hoax, it will be a little more difficult to establish. An assistant to Dr. Hynek at the Northwestern University, Dr. William T. Powers, said that right now we can't even say how big the thing was. It may have been anything from 3 inches to 5 feet wide that was in front of the Jarislaw brothers' camera. Dr. Powers explained that the opaqueness or resistance to light in various parts of the negatives and the relation to various sites in the background would have to be examined. So, this gets brought up by Keel, and he's like, oh, these boys apparently captured a very, very good image of a UFO, multiple images of a UFO. I would describe the craft in the picture as looking... It's almost like a circular Millennium Falcon, if that makes sense. Like, it kind of gives Millennium Falcon vibes. But the way that this all loops back into Keel's whole thing is that, according to Keel, 2 years before these photos were taken, the Jarislaw family's house burned to the ground. And apparently, when that happened, the family then continued to live in the burned-out basement of the house. Which is crazy. I'm not calling them crazy. Like, I don't know the details, but it makes me think, like, is there a money issue? Do they not have somewhere they can go? Like, that's my immediate assumption, but I can't tell you for sure. But that has to be a bad time, right?
Yeah.
When UFO investigators in the Air Force came knocking about the damn photos, the Jarislaw brothers' mother refused to give up the original prints of the photos to the Air Force, or any experts for that matter. They refused to discuss the photos with anybody, and apparently changed their unlisted number 2 times to get the Air Force and the other investigators to fuck off.
Damn. All right.
And, like, I couldn't find anything about the Jarislaws being ridiculed by the media. Not that I could find. And, in fact, Keel reports that Air Force Major Raymond Nils informed the press that he felt these UFO photos were, quote, the most amazing flying saucer pictures he'd ever seen. Now, I don't know about you, and maybe this is part of what Keel is implying a little bit, but there is something that feels just a little sinister about an Air Force major being so openly supportive of your flying saucer evidence.
Yeah. Especially like with the helicopter, the antenna, this feels a little too tight, you know?
I don't know because I don't have more information, but Keel's speculation is, quote, the Jaroslaws became incommunicado. Why? What kind of nightmare were they actually living? He doesn't say anything beyond that, but like, I can't help but wonder if it's hard. It's very hard to not have the fallback of like, was there some sort of weird military or Air Force thing here? But I don't have enough information to really speculate. But Keel's bringing this in because it is a mysterious fire that is right before, like a little bit before they have these UFOs, and also the family like goes silent on the subject of UFOs when approached by investigators.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's, it feels a little bit like a sidetrack, but like I just, roping together anomalous events, it makes some sense. And I would also personally remark that the more I hear about the Grinning Man, personally, or at least the ones that aren't part of Derenberger's mythology, the more I am reminded of the Men in Black phenomenon. And if you remember, the Men in Black depending on who you ask, they could be aliens, they could be interdimensional beings, or they could just be actual fucking feds, right? Like,
yep.
So that I'm very curious about that story, and if I find more on it, I will bring it up sometime. So
please do.
Is there a hint that maybe the Jaroslaws were receiving unwanted visits as they lived in their burned out basement? I'm not totally sure, but Keel is like heavily implying at something very vague here. But to get back to the Grinning Man stuff, Keel also brings in these stories of unidentified prowlers. It's again very creepy shit in my opinion. But by bringing these stories in, it's almost like he's just saying like we could tie this into the Grinning Man by having it be associated in the chapter, because these are just like tall, creepy men at night. Really. So he first talks about Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and then all the way to Florida, where apparently reports came in of these quote-unquote unidentified prowlers who are just walking around outside at night. And, not to get into the Mothman stuff, but, like, there's a lot of reports around the Mothman stuff of these faces looking into people's windows. And Keel points out how, like, some of these reports would be in windows that would be too high for a human to actually stand in front of, right? So...
Sure. Okay. If the window's 10 feet up and there's
yes.
not... yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah. Supposedly in 1968, in Delaware County in New York, there were these farmers who chased a, quote, giant, broad-shouldered grinning man with an unruly shock of silver hair. I guess he was described as being over 6 feet tall, and when they chased this guy, he was displaying nearly inhuman agility, and he was leaping across these ditches and stuff and escaping them pretty handily. That's another detail that I, without going down into any weeds, the shock of silver hair is a thing that has come up in other stories. I was just reading a story that is UFO / Men in Black related, of a person having a vision of a man in the sky who has silver hair. And wears a suit. So it's it's enough to make you feel crazy. The like recurring imagery in stories, right? Like you're like, what does it all mean? I get that's kind of where Keel's coming from. Is like,
yeah, it's all these things have shared common. Like if you boil down these stories into a series of traits and tropes, so to speak,
yeah,
there's at least a couple in common with all, and not all of them have the same ones in common, but also not like, it is interesting. I
Yeah.
get why you do this,
It's the same, like I said, it's the same feeling I had reading Passport to Magonior, and I'm like, wow, that is a lot of weird things that all do similar things or seem related in one way or another. And I'm not the kind of person to jump to the paranormal explanation, but it does make me like want to dig as deep as I possibly can to see what I can find, because it's very weird. So yeah. Oh, and sorry, I should say that when this chaste, silver-haired, inhuman man, some people, I guess, who witnessed him also described him as having small eyes and a quote-unquote fixed grin. So the Grinning Man is fucking bounding around Delaware County in New York.
All right.
Evading farmers. There's a couple other stories here. There was one in September of 1969 in Springdale, Arkansas. So around 11 p.m., this woman, Mrs. Barbara Robinson, is in her bedroom, and she looks to the window and sees that somebody is staring in her bedroom window. She calls police, and the officer reports that he, quote, discovered that anyone who looked through the bedroom window would have to have been at least 7 feet tall, and there was nothing in the area of the window on which a prowler could have stood.
Okay. And this guy didn't think that the prowler maybe just brought some stilts?
I was thinking that, too. It's giving Mad Gasser of Saskatoon, but with stilts, where it's like somebody was fucking around, and yeah, maybe. I mean, but it is like an eerie thing to be like, oh, you would have to be like 7 to 8 feet tall to look in here. But also, why couldn't they have stilts? Why not? People do weird shit, even just to fuck with people, like... There's another story that I didn't include the full thing because, again, it feels very in the weeds, but it was basically about this woman who worked with the Air Force who saw something that looked like a prowler outside a window where she was staying, I think at a hotel. She also tells this story where she describes waking up in the night and sees a dark figure, broad-shouldered with a hood, standing at the foot of her bed, and it like reaches its arm out over her, and she reaches out to touch it, and when she touches it, the entire figure crumbles apart and disappears, and she describes it feeling powdery like ashes.
Weird.
And again,
okay.
it's very, but it's still very like sleep paralysis adjacent, it feels kind of like that. So, to recap, UFO flaps sometimes herald the presence of grinning men, whatever that entity may be, and grinning men, in at least one case, have been associated with mysterious fires around UFO vents. And Keel also... that was the Air Force woman. So, he's just, again, he's making a little string of incidents that could potentially relate to one another. He uses the Air Force woman's story of the crumbling figure to explain that there's at least one other story that he was able to find of UFO debris being recovered and packed away safely, only for it to later be revealed that the debris had pretty much disintegrated into an ashy powder. Now, doesn't give me a lot of details on this one, so I don't know what this is, but that's what he says. So from here, Keel then launches into stories of these broad-shouldered men wearing capes and hoods, with, again, the implication here being that I think that if we follow the connections, we could suggest that these stories may relate back to the Grinning Man.
Sure. Yeah, I like that now we got like a LARP cape going on,
Yeah.
It's nice.
Again, not going to get too deep in the weeds, but UFO author Jerome Clark, in correspondence with Keel, sent him a story that he had heard. And I wrote this one down because, I don't know, it felt striking. He lists a couple stories of these broad-shouldered, cloaked men. But this one, I don't know, I find it creepy. So Jerome Clark says to him, I have been told of 2 similar cases in Minnesota. The first incident occurred last April. According to what the witness told me, he and a friend had been driving along the highway about 11:30 p.m. They were miles from the nearest town, and they could not see any other cars on the road. Since the land in northwestern Minnesota is very flat, their visibility was almost unlimited. So they were understandably shocked and surprised when, in their headlights, they caught 3 large men walking abreast and towards them from the other lane of the highway. The men were dressed in black cowls that covered the upper half of their faces. There were slits for eyes. The strangers, whoever or whatever they were, paid no attention to the car and continued on as if it had never passed.
Okay.
When he gets into these hooded figure stories, too, the other thing that he finds is that there's a number of stories of these hooded figures where people see them and they're carrying large black bags also.
Interesting.
So
okay.
that's another overlapping experience.
Do these different... Are these stories with the black bags and the hoods and everything, do they cross state lines, or are they all in one area?
I think those do cross state lines because some of them also come from England in the book.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
There's stuff. He gets very into it. And here's kind of the point that I'm reaching. We have to remember that Keel is the Mothman Prophecies guy. Keel is the ultra-terrestrial hypothesis guy.
Yeah.
What this string of stories, I think, is supposed to do, and what a lot of this book is doing, is to call into question the nature of UFOs and why they seem to maybe have some sort of relationship with these ghostly, inhuman, grinning man figures. Like,
sure,
UFOs are maybe connected to weird, paranormal feeling occurrences. So I'm just going to read you verbatim Keel's conclusion to this chapter because I like it. Here's what it says. Are ghosts really UFOs and UFO entities, or are UFOs really ghosts? Take your choice. In July 1968, 3 schoolboys in Cumberland, England, were camping out when they saw a bright UFO-type light bobbing and weaving over the barren hills of nearby Cumberland Fells. One of the lads, Owen Moran, had a camera and snapped some pictures. When the film was developed, everyone was amazed to find that the object appeared as a pale light resembling the head of a woman in profile, wearing a bonnet or cloak tied under the chin.
Interesting.
Okay. It harkens back to some stories I really like. Like, remember how people saw the fucking Madonna in the sky, and that gets roped into UFO stuff too? And
I do.
It's a fun... I love the ultra-terrestrial stuff. I'm not inclined to believe that supernatural events are happening, but it's such a fun story.
It's fun that we could wrap the same things that people would use for, like, Project Bluebeam stories into the ultra-terrestrial hypothesis.
Yeah,
it's good.
It rules. So, that's basically the Grinning Man chapter of the book. Again, I think we're gonna want to revisit that one, so I have it saved. There's a lot of fun stuff in there.
I do like the general idea of, like, because he's just trying to link all, like, gather together a lot of different stories that have shared commonalities and talk about this grinning figure. And he's not drawing a super specific conclusion other than this happens a significant amount. And, these are the forms it takes, which is interesting to look at. Cause, like, I don't exactly know what conclusion to draw from all of those when put together. I can kind of, if you tell me one of them, I can give you a kind of pithy takedown of it. But when you put all of them together, it's like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's one of those things where, so I think he does kind of try and nudge you towards the ultra terrestrial thing that he seems to be into, but I think you're also right. And it's sort of the way he seems to write is almost feels like a Rorschach test for the reader, where they can see what they want to see into the stories. Because I'm reading this shit and I'm going like, oh my God, this makes me think of the fucking Men in Black, and Men in Black is like, you know, spooky feds being weird and stuff. Like, so I'm reading into it, which is the thing that I'm trying not to do when I read these stories anymore, but I can't fucking help it anymore.
Yeah.
Also, so I think that's also partly why Keel's writing is effective, because he does exactly as you described. He strings these things together and then like makes vague implications that let you kind of conjure up ideas about what is happening, maybe. But the broader the picture, the less it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the little time we have left, I have just a little tidbit here at the end. I wanna bookend this series by talking about Woody Derenberger again.
Great.
And his encounter with Indrid Cold. There's not a lot for me to get into. I selected some of the most fun stuff. So he has a lot of details about the Lanulosians and their planet, their way of life. You know, it's the kind of story you would expect from a contactee who was whisked away to experience the Space Brothers' way of life. You know, it's a story we've kind of heard. So here are some fun facts that Woody learned from Cold. So, Lanulosians are religious. They believe in one god, not unlike Earthlings.
You got space Christianity already. Fantastic.
Yep. Their society is much more advanced than ours, which means no war and strife. This is my favorite detail. They are also all nudists. Derenberger would join them by stripping down during his visit. So he apparently felt uncomfortable when he showed up because they were all nude and they're very human-like. And they tell him, hey, during the, warm months or whatever, we don't feel any need for clothing and we feel no shame about our own bodies. And Derenberger's like, all right, well, when in Rome. And he acclimates to being a nudist with them. And that's like, okay, whatever. Nothing wrong with nudism. I don't care. But the side note that I found is that he also gets to visit Venus at some point, and he claims that the alien inhabitants on Venus are also nudists. So it just feels like maybe he has a nudist agenda.
Yeah, it's a bold play to put that in there. As you're kind of defining. Some people are really weirdly into pregnancy. Some people are really weirdly into other things. Yep. Nudism. Pretty harmless. It is. Sure.
It is ultimately, I think, pretty harmless here, and like it's fine if that's his thing. I find it very funny that stories of space brotherly contact feel like a conduit for expressing what you think is the right way the world should be.
Yeah, so you can craft your utopia, sure.
One of his utopian elements is nudism, and I love that for him. So. That's fun. So apparently Indrid Cold had a wife and 2 children. And in Earth time, he was told that Lanulosians live anywhere between 125 to 175 years. Apparently the Lanulosians also have been attempting to make contact with Earth for the purpose of conducting business and offering guidance to us. But they were met with such hostility by Earthlings that they haven't been able to establish anything official. And Indrid Cold even tells Derenberger that he sustained a shotgun wound at one point because he tried to make contact.
Oh. Now I got to think about what UFO encounter has someone claimed to shoot an alien with a shotgun?
There's got to be a couple of those. There was also a family who had left Earth, I believe, 4 decades prior to Derenberger's trip. This is a fun trope that appears. I don't know if trope's the great word for it, but you know what I mean. This family left Earth and was now living on Lanulos, and they preferred it there. And apparently Derenberger played a Lanulosian game with them, presumably in the nude. That was not unlike Earth tennis. So Derenberger learned all this from repeat visits with Cold, who would presumably come and whisk him away in his spacecraft.
Yeah.
Now,
sure.
This story is talked about a lot online. Derenberger has a lot of people talking about him, probably because of the Indrid Cold name, which is a very popular, spooky story guy, right?
Yeah.
Now, in looking through all this stuff, I learned something weird and rarely talked about that I can't confirm, but I heard about.
Okay. Hit me.
It's one of those things that feels like a rumor, but without copies of books that dig deeper into the subject, I can't tell you anything beyond what I'm about to say. So his story sounds incredible and hard to believe, but apparently Mrs. Derenberger and Woody's kids would at least verbally confirm that he would disappear in the middle of night with some unidentified person, and that he would come back sometimes at dawn, and when he would return, he would often be very disoriented, and he would sometimes have severe migraines.
Okay.
The Derenbergers also claimed to receive menacing phone calls. These would be men on the phone telling Woody to keep quiet about his whole shit. And then other phone calls were just these metallic clicks and noises. And apparently his wife and children would occasionally pick up the phone and hear these calls. And I also read that Derenberger at one point went to go see a psychologist because, again, remember, he is like, after his encounter, he's 2 years away from losing his wife because things are so crazy.
Yeah, so fucked up, sure.
And he goes to see a psychologist, and the psychologist says, no, you're fine.
Okay.
And remember how I mentioned that folks were showing up at the Derenberger household trying to catch a glimpse of all the crazy shit that was happening there?
Yeah.
There is a story that claims that one night, two men who decided to stake out overnight, I think they came with crossbows, I guess just in case something happened, but they stake out overnight at outside the Derenberger household watching. And they want to see if they can catch UFOs or Indrid Cold, maybe.
Sure, yeah.
And the story goes that they were rewarded because around 1 a.m., a long black car pulls up on the Derenberger property, and a very tall, thin, mysterious man in a suit gets out, walks up to the front door. Woody answers. He speaks to the strange man for a little while, and then closes the door. The man walks back to his car and leaves. And I can confirm nothing about this story other than I heard somebody say it.
Yeah, and there we got the tall, thin man is what I would have, if you'd asked me what Indrid Cold looked like before the last episode, I would think it was that guy, but I guess he's a brick shit house. So,
I don't know what.
Was this guy being whisked away to have military experiments done on him or some shit? It's
there's nothing to actually point me to reach the point where I'm like, I think that's what happened.
Yeah,
but that's kind of what I'm implying.
Yeah, it feels like that's because either this guy is being whisked away by aliens, or if he's actually leaving the house in the middle of the night with somebody and coming back disoriented and with migraines, it sounds like someone is trying to do mind experiments on him.
Yeah,
you know?
The frustrating thing with everything that I just... Okay, so all the stuff that I told you that Derenberger claims he discovered on Lanulos, that's readily available. You can find people pulling that from his book online. What I just read about people staking out and watching a besuited man go to his house, that is literally somebody else on another podcast bringing it up. And I don't know what their source is because they don't tell me, and it pissed me off. And I spent a long time looking for it. And I have to assume that if it wasn't made up whole cloth, it's in a book somewhere that I don't have. Yeah. But it's a good... It's a
good bit.
It's a good story. It's a good bit. I love it. This is all my... I want to talk about the Mothman prophecies. I want to talk about Keel more. I brought up so much shit in these two episodes that I want to talk about. I want to talk about Gray Barker, Jim Moseley. I want to talk about those fucking guys so bad. I want to talk about the Men in Black again.
Yeah. I think that's definitely due.
There's so much to talk about. And I had a lot of fun learning about all this. And I gotta say, Keel is a fun read.
He was a hell of a man.
Yeah, sure.
That's such an obscure reference. If you listen to the Shellac Peel sessions after John Peel died,
Oh my
in
God.
End of Radio, he says John
Wow.
Peel was a hell of a man.
Wow.
And every time you've said John Keel through the entirety of
You're
both
thinking
episodes,
of-
my brain thinks of,
I
my brain
see.
like pulls that up, and so it finally came out. That's
Nice.
what happens, you know.
I get it. So that's the Grinning Man's. That's John Keel's Grinning Man and Woody Derenberger's Indrid Cold. That's like about as complete as I can get it right now. I'm sure I'll find more in the future. So,
That's wild. I like having the actual lowdown on Indrid Cold finally. Like it's a figure. He's a figure that has existed throughout the like. Mothman was like episode 6 of this podcast or something. It was like super
very
early.
long time ago.
And I finally get it wrapping back around to take care of that. But it makes it's good. I have such a different perspective on it now than I would have then. It's really wild to think about that in context, you know?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, Indrid Cold is just sort of a presence in the Mothman stories. His presence is sort of felt, but this is going to the source of Indrid Cold. You find out like, oh, he's just some fucking Space Brothers alien. God damn it, one of those again. Just another one of those. But I like that he's a nudist. I like that they're nudists. If they showed up to Earth and said a big part of making positive changes here involves everybody going nude, I'd be like, who am I to question the Lanulosians?
Yeah, sure, fuck it. Like we all could use a little less shame. I think people would be better off. But
God, what a story. Thank you for listening to it with me.
Hey,
thank you for
thank you for I'm sure the like 4 books it took to read to figure all this stuff out. So
I did a lot of reading. Niall.
Yeah.
Are you ready for a big question?
Oh, I always am.
Black suits are over. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
What is the hot new fashion trend of eerie, alien, paranormal, humanoid entities?
I think we got to go full Argyle.
Okay.
I think you got to go like, and the art, like, because there you get a lot of variation in terms of like size of pattern, color, various color combinations, and they can kind of signify different things. You could make a whole like Starfleet ranking system out of different colors of Argyle, you know? And I think that there's a lot of stuff there that can be both functional and stylish.
I do like that. I do like that a lot. You know, it's funny, you say Star Trek, and that makes me think a really good thing for like humanoid paranormal entities to wear would be like a straight up unitard.
I mean, yeah, like there's a reason. I do think that it's funny that the general consensus of the future is that we're going to move towards form-fitting unitards. That just has someone decided that in the 60s, and we've just been running with it ever since. And it doesn't really show signs of stopping, although now they got a little bit more angular, it seems.
I mean, yeah, well, if these entities are not here, if we are going to assume that Indrid Cold, who seems pretty benevolent the way Derenberger tells it, if these grinning men are actually associated with that, they gotta find a way to be less intimidating. So if they roll up looking like they're about to do the Nutcracker Suite, I'm less inclined to be scared.
Or hey, if they roll up literally doing some dances from the Nutcracker, although in the costumes and everything, maybe that'll work.
That's a good point, but we'd want to test that one because I think that there could be something maybe a little scary about Indrid Cold rolling up. I mean, you don't
do the full Rat King. Like you start with some of the like dancing soldiers and stuff, and the swan, and make it nice.
Okay, yeah, we can try it out. But I'm telling you right now, if we get any negative reviews of dancing of ballet Indrid Cold.
Sure.
Where he's just walking up in the unitard, okay?
Yeah, okay. I'm with it.
So, hey, that's a great idea. Hey, 2 great ideas. I requested all humanoid entities take our advice from this episode.
Yeah, why don't you just combine everything?
True.
Have Argyle unitards
Yeah.
that are separated by color and size, whatever, yada yada yada, and also dance Russian ballet.
Yeah. And I also think hats are out. Like,
Yeah.
no more hat. I guess a baseball cap could work. Because that's...
What about like a visor?
See, visors... Okay, a baseball cap to me is like the least offensive hat. The least aggressive hat.
All right, but if I see anyone with a fucking flat bill, I'm fucking...
okay.
I'm going to be so pissed.
No, I'm talking like a baseball cap.
Yeah.
A visor has a little bit of an aggressive flavor to it. You know, I'm asking, like, what's the visor about? Like, what's your lifestyle? Like, are you out at the casinos? Poker. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering. And, like, you know, look, I don't have a very positive relationship with casinos. I've only ever been to one in Vegas, and I instantly lost $100, and I said, fuck this, never again. I do not have the gambler's spirit. So I just, like, if somebody's habitually at the casino with their visor, I'm just wondering, you know, what that's about.
That's fair. I haven't stepped foot in a casino since I turned 18 to be able to do shit in them.
Yeah.
All of my time spent in casinos was before that. So
yeah. No Stetsons, no bowler hats, nothing like that, because
no
again,
fedoras.
Yeah, we just have an association with bad, scary things now. So it's either hatless or you're wearing, you know, a baseball cap. That's it. And you're putting that on with your unitard and Argyle. So it's gonna look good.
We've really set up a whole new fucking structure for all aliens. You know, I think it's a new day for all alien kind.
I hope they're listening. Anyways, you ready to take care of some business?
Sure. So if you want to follow us on social media, we're on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/ItGetsWeirdPodcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers. If you listen to podcasts somewhere, look up It Gets Weird, and we're almost certainly there.
We're on Blue Sky at It Gets Weird. Come check it out. We're on Twitch, twitch.tv/ItGetsWeird. Been playing Pokemon Fire Red Nuzlocke with a friend of the show, Colin. We're going to get back to that real soon. Give us a follow. It's a lot of fun. Email us, itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. If you have additional information regarding any of the stories I brought up in this episode or the last episode, please feel free to reach out. I would love to hear from you. We would give you a shout out on the show for sure. Or if you just have a story, something creepy or cool or interesting, like scary, like the story that we had up front this episode, go ahead and send it in. The scary stories are going to be a lot better for the next couple months, so send those in. Email us, itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. Now, if you want to support us, and I know you do, patreon.com/itgetsweird. That's a /, by the way, I should say. patreon.com/itgetsweird. We have a $1 tier, a $2 tier, and a $5 tier. At the $1 tier, you're just giving us a tip. You don't get anything. You're just saying, hey, thanks for doing what you do. Here's $1. At the $2 tier, though, you're going to get bonus content. You get It Gets Weird TV every other week, where Niall and I watch weird television and discuss it. And you get to vote on the shows that we watch. So check it out, It Gets Weird TV at the $2 tier. At the $5 tier, you're going to get even more bonus content. In the off weeks of It Gets Weird TV, we've got World of Weird, where Niall and I talk about whatever the hell we want. A lot of the times it's movies, it's music, sometimes it's stuff that's sort of chopping, like cutting room floor from the main show. We talk about whatever the hell we want. It's a lot of fun. We talk about all kinds of things there. And you're getting, at the $5 tier, bonus content every single week. Whether you donate to the $2 tier, the $5 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday, and you get access to the Patreon Discord, where we're hanging out, chatting with listeners. Jesus Christ, I've been doing too much tech work. We're chatting with listeners just like you. It's a lot of fun. Lots of discussions in there lately.
Yep.
So go ahead and check it out. Check out patreon.com/itgetsweird. But if you can't donate, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird Podcast.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for continuing to support the show. This has been It Gets Weird, and I've been Niall.
And I'm Kyle, signing out.